My name's Phil McGough, and this is how I became an ostomate and how I actually go about changing my stoma bag. On the morning of September the 9th, 2021, I woke and, as usual, popped off to the loo. Found I couldn't do anything. So gave it about an hour and tried again, but same issue, but this time I started to feel unwell. And when I returned to the bedroom, I actually collapsed on the bed. Then I ended up in A&E. I came round from the induced coma that they put me in after surgery about 3 days later, and the surgeon was there telling me more or less what he had done, but I felt so weak and wobbly I didn't really take everything in. I heard major operation, obstruction, bowel cancer, stoma, and didn't really take everything in. So it wasn't until that evening that a nurse had come round to give me injections and all the rest of the things. I decided she was going to change my dressings for me. And she said, by the way, do you know you have a stoma? I said, stoma? And she said, there is a bag covering it for you. This is all news to me. I've never heard the term stoma before. And the way it was being pronounced, it sounded like stoma. Later on, this nurse, who was also involved in the stoma side of things, explained to me what it was. And she said, by the way, you have bum on tongue. I said, right, okay, I understand now. And she showed me exactly what had happened, and that the end of my bowel was now in a hole in my abdomen. And the word stoma comes from the Latin for a hole. And there we are. So that's what I've got. Apparently, I'm going to have this now for the rest of my life. At first, I thought that was quite traumatic. But now, I'm actually quite pleased I've got it. It's very useful. If you're out at, I don't know, let's say you're at Glastonbury. Have you seen the videos of the people queuing for the toilets at Glastonbury? So I don't even need to worry about that. If I needed to, I could just go behind a hedge, change my bag, job's done. Now, I know this won't be to everybody's taste, but I find that if I can introduce humour into any of my situations, it makes things so much easier. And one of the things that I did very early on was to actually give my stoma a name. So it's more or less like a little pet. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life. I might as well get to know it well. And all right, it is just another body part. It just happens to be in a different position to where it was a year ago. But I've come up with a few names, and one of them that seems to be popular with myself and my wife is Truly Bumptious. Now, Truly Bumptious can be very talkative, and I'm sure that everybody who has a stoma bag knows of the occasion where the stoma does decide it's going to join in with the conversation. Okay, just let it go. There's nothing you can do about it. So make a joke out of it. Tell people that he agrees with you, or alternatively, that's not the best opinion, is it? So this is Truly Bumptious with his best friend, Whoopsie Goldbag. And next up, I'll show you how I go about actually changing it for a clean one. Let me show you what I carry around in my little silver bag all the time, ready for a bag change should I need it. So, obviously, stoma bag. I use these skin wipes, which are to help the skin recover from having been covered up by a plastic bag all day. Dry wipes, adhesive remover, and doggy doo-doo bags. I normally keep some sheets of toilet paper or kitchen roll in this case to do the dry wipe before using these wipes in a little bit of water just to help clean yourself up. Now, I don't get my bags pre-cut at the minute. I know a lot of people do, but I had an issue with the size of my stoma needed dilating earlier on, and really it was a case of waiting to see when it would settle down to a specific size, and it seems to have settled to round about 30mm diameter. So it's a dead simple job. Just cut the hole. That goes in the doggy-doo-dah bag. And I also have these. Not everybody wants them, not everybody needs them, but I find these tapes very useful. They go on, once the bag's on, which obviously will be that way round, these tapes go on, and it's a little bit of added security. You can see it increases the sticky area. So since using them, I've had absolutely no issues of leakage, of odours or anything along those lines. They've been a little godsend for me, as has been this particular shape of Stoma bag. They're like a petal, like a flower, and because I have quite an extended hernia, which is not a problem in itself, but the flat version of this did lift, and in the early days I had about 3 incidents, 2 of them in hospital and 1 of them at home, where the bag literally just came off, which is mortifying. It's a horrible thing to happen, but since I've had the right Stoma bag, i.e. these ones that fit over my hernia, no problems whatsoever. Another little tip, check with your Stoma nurse to make sure that you have actually got the correct bag, because we're all different. I've come across other ostomates. That's us, by the way, folks. Anybody who's had an ostomy and has one of these, we're ostomates, all in it together. Now, what can happen, and what used to happen to me, is a thing called pancaking. It's not a pleasant thing to happen. Basically, the contents of your bag ends up around here instead of going through there. So you end up with literally a pancake of poo around your stoma. Not very pleasant, and it can lead to it lifting. That aspect of it didn't happen to me, but the pancaking was just common, and it's not particularly pleasant. We all know that changing a bag isn't the nicest thing in the world, and certainly not the idea of having it pancaking. So just double check with your stoma nurse. Make sure that the particular model, if you like, of the product is exactly suited to your stoma, and you can avoid lots and lots of issues. Okay, folks, this is just me in the bathroom getting ready to show you how I change my Stoma bag. May be different for everybody, but this is my method. So the first thing I do is give myself an amount of water to use with the wet wipes, and when I'm out and about I always take one of these little plastic containers so you can fill it with water just in case you're nowhere near a sink. Then there's a little magic bag that's got all of my bits and pieces in. A little doggy-doo-doo disposable bag, and of course the Stoma bag and wipes. Now I always take my top off for this part because I've tried many times in the past to roll the top up underneath my chin and it just doesn't work. You always end up with it falling down and dropping onto what you've just removed from the bag before you've had a chance to clean it up. So removing the Stoma bag is simple. Just use one of these little sprays, and there we are, off. Then I make use of one of these little wipes plus some kitchen roll, which gives me the opportunity to give it a nice clean all round. And one of the things that I did notice very early on, which I found very scary, but I've been assured by stoma nurses and surgeon that it's not a big deal, but I find I get blood on occasions, and I'm told that that's nothing to worry about. You've got so many blood vessels very near the surface there, and really there's virtually no skin, so it is engorged with blood, as they like to say. I like to use these. They're a skin cleanser with vitamins in them, and that helps you to protect yourself from the little marks you can sometimes get when you take the bag off. It can sometimes just pull a little layer of skin off, and this helps to restore the health of your skin. So that goes on there. Then into the little bag. I know some people like to use their bag actually on the belt. Personally, I always find it awkward, so I do that. Now then, the next thing to do is, when that's dry, is to use one of these barrier creams, films, barrier film wipes. And it is basically just a little glue pad, which assists the bag in terms of sticking to your skin. So that goes on, you give it a minute or two to dry off, and they are very, very sticky. Then the bag, I prefer to use a lubricant in the bag. Just helps to stop it from clagging around your middle. So just put about 10 ml in there, roughly. Then peel it off. This sits over the top of the hole of your stoma. Hold it on for a second or two. You might see I've got a little touch of blood just there where I took the bag off earlier on and just pulled the skin a bit, but it's okay, it's never an issue, it doesn't hurt. So keep that on there for a second or two. And then I personally like to use these. They're an additional way of securing the bag to your skin. So I find that if I leave it, it does tend to want to lift around the edges. So you put these on, and again, it doesn't really matter if they go over the little bit of what looks as though it's sore skin, but actually isn't. And then the second one goes underneath. A little bit fiddly, but worth it for the added security. And I now know that that bag is on there fully secure.